Good evening, Denver. How are you today?
I'm well, sir. I'm well on you.
All right, all right. Hey, just wanted to get a quick few minutes of an interview with you if you've got some time. Get the announcer's take on how events run and that sort of thing. If you've got time for some questions.
I certainly do. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, I kind of wanted to get a little bit of a background from you first for those people that don't know you, which I think that's very few people, if any, that don't know you in this sport. But how did you get into announcing and how long have you been doing it?
Well, believe it or not, sir, I started at the county fair in 4-H years and years ago, just doing some odds and ends for the actual 4-H department. Developed more into the county fair, and then I got the ability to work under the legendary announcer, Mr. Keith Bradley. And I've been at this since 1998.
Wow, that's quite a few seasons to have under your belt and quite a few places that you've been, I imagine.
Yes, it has been. I've been all over the eastern half of the United States, and I've just loved every bit of it. It's been just been a wonderful occupation.
And is this something you do full time?
Well, from about the end of March until the end of November, just right after Thanksgiving, yes, almost. We do get by the house every once in a while, just enough to mow the yard and pet the dog, and out we go again. But for the most part, we spend most all that time on the road.
I mean, and you said you go all over the eastern part. What are some of the associations and clubs or groups that you work with?
Well, of course, NTPA is one of the major ones. The Northwestern Ohio Tractor Pullers Association, that would be your Bowling Green, your blue shirts, the National Tractor Pulling Championships, Maumee Valley Pullers out of Waseon, Pro Pulling League. Oh gosh, Ohio State Tractor Pullers, just Badger State Pullers when you get up into Michigan, West Michigan Pullers. You start heading west, Illinois Tractor Pullers, um, NHRDA when they were around, NADM, of course, those guys as well. I've worked with the ODSS and Carolina Truck and Tractor Pull, and of course, Smoke and Speed. Some of my favorite people from Smoke and Speed. It's a great, great organization. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And I can't leave out some folks also that's been very, very good to Miss Judy and I. Central Ohio Truck Pull Circuit. The folks from right in Central Ohio, that's been a great opportunity for me as well. So a lot of good people we've met.
As an announcer, you get to work with multiple different groups and associations. It's probably more than anyone else in polling. You can announce for more people than people can pull with, so to speak. So you can pretty much go anywhere, right?
We try to be very versatile in what we do, and try to be well equipped to go wherever we need to go.
And having a good announcer can make or break an event. So can you give us a little bit of insight as to what your job is behind the mic at an event?
Well, it's it's an amazing thing to do. It's something that you have to be on your toes with all the time. There's no such thing as trying to do it without having preparation and enough rest and being ready to go. One of my jobs is to keep the crowd informed and also keep them entertained as well. That doesn't mean you have to be a jokester or you've got to continually tell jokes and do things like that. But you've got to keep them entertained, the things that they know, and maybe some fun facts from the pits, maybe something about a driver that they don't know, or maybe the rules of each class. You don't have to need to go through the whole rule book, but some of the fun rules out of there, why they have to have that fire extinguisher, and why they have to have the limiting straps on the drive shafts now, and some things like that. It's just some fun facts. It helps keep the crowd entertained as you go through the event.
Right, right. And then any downtime obviously must be filled or should be filled as well, just so that people don't get bored in the stands and that sort of thing. Is it difficult to keep that rolling?
No, not really. I seem to be able to have the gift for gab, and I always try to make sure that I get with my promoters beforehand and find out who are our gold sponsors, the say, our silver sponsors, our bronze sponsors, and like that. And I'd like to have always a short little clip about each one of the sponsors, a 15-second or a 30-second clip that we can throw in and throw out, and some taglines that we can use. Always to have something to fill a little bit of dead air.
Right.
I also learned from a great announcer, Mr. Butch Krieger. Butch said sometimes you got to know when not to say anything.
Right.
So that always is in the back of my head.
It's tough too because I guess it would be something that you really, with experience going through the years and the seasons and the different events, you probably pick it up pretty easily. The more experience that you have, the easier it is to know when to say something, when to not, when's a good time to plug a sponsor versus say something that's a one-liner while the truck is or tractor is getting ready to come up and that sort of thing. Try to gauge how long something's going to be on the line versus how long it's going to take for the scraper and the roller to come back, or how long you have in between each truck when they're drag racing, because you do drag racing announcing as well.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You've got to have a sense about you. You almost got to have a set of eyes, not only on any script that you've got, any promotion material that you have, but you also have to have that set of eyes down on the track as well. Watch and see what's going on, and see what you need to be and where you need to be. So as that puller comes out on the track, you can bring that puller out and get him down the track in the best light you can.
And how, if you're going somewhere and announcing for an event, what's that rundown like for you? I know when you work with us, you come hours before, sometimes even the evening before, and we run down, the sponsors and some of the trucks that are going to be there, because we primarily do trucks for anybody that doesn't know. So we'll run down, the points leaders or which truck is which, or describe them to you. Is that sort of what it's like when you go to other places? Do they have a book with you of all their points people? Like, how does that work, and how can promoters better prepare for you?
A book is a great idea, Sarah. That's a very good suggestion, and I like the way that Smoke and Speed does it. You guys are right on top of things and really do a nice job of what you do. One of the big things from the promoter is bring me that book, bring me the classes, bring me the rules. A lot of them I can find online as needed. That's not a problem. But I want to know who's in first, what the point series are, what's going on. If somebody had to drop out, I want to know why. Okay? And inside of that book, we need to have all those sponsors. And also, in that book, we always need to have something called Code Blue. So if we need to announce to the crowd that we have something going on with the weather, we have a disaster, we need an evacuation, a driver extraction, or heaven forbid terrorism.
Right.
We need to have that, be able to go over with that point person. So we know when the media comes, a lot of times it comes to the announcer needs to know to point that media one person throughout the whole event.
And that's probably a lot of things that most normal places don't think about. Like when I know a lot of the clubs and stuff that we pulled with growing up, but we really didn't think about that. From that aspect of it, that you needed to have one person, and you need to have an evac plan, and you need to have a traffic flow plan and things like that. I know when we fill out our insurance, it's something that they require now for any track, whether it be pulling or drag racing or dirt drags or indoor events or whatever. That's something that probably is overlooked a lot.
Yes, it is. A lot of times when I get to an event, as you mentioned, I try to get there at least the morning of right away. But a lot of times, as you know, I'm out there the afternoon before. Why? Because I want to take that time and walk and talk and look and see what's going on. Where are the exits? Where are the entrances? What's the tower? What kind of sound are we going to have for the tower? What's going to go on? And how do we get an EMS in and out? And if we do have to evacuate, how do we do that? It's all a lot of things that run through your head that a lot of people, probably a lot of announcers, don't think about. It's just something that you really got to be aware of in today's world.
Right, right. And it's probably something that a lot of pullers or spectators, fans, anybody else, nobody's ever thinking about that. They're coming to a show, they're there to pull or they're there to watch or something. They're not really thinking about all of the foreplanning that goes along with it. So it's helpful when there's that extra support system behind all of that, that you can have all that together for everyone in time of need.
Right, and so many times it's happened is I've gotten to a poll in the afternoon before, and one of the fair board, if you get a fair, maybe the fair board member will come up to me and say, old Bill, he was on the fair board for 48 years and he passed away last month, and we really miss him, and we would like to honor him a little bit. Is there something you can help us with? Well, then at that point, Sarah, I go to work and I find out as much as I can about him and what he did for the fair board and how he achieved all of the success he did with the fair board, and we just try to build on that so we can present them in a good light. They deserve that.
And you do that with pullers as well. I know, and racers. I know that when you've come to our events, you come early, and whoever is there, you always go over and talk to them, even if it's if it's not a memorial, it's a team that's there early, it's a racer early, a puller early, or an early vendor or something like that. You're always over there talking to them, finding out some more information, and then I'll hear you at a show. I'll be like, wow, that's great Denver went and talked to them, because I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that new product, or I didn't think about that, this guy just had blown up a charger a couple weeks ago and he got a new one, or something like that. It's pretty cool that you go and reach out to everybody and find out extra, the pullers, the crew, everybody.
Yeah, a lot of times you find out a lot of pretty neat things. Maybe one of the pullers had a daughter that graduated first in her class at college for whatever reason, and he's really, really proud of her. And maybe things like that. That's kind of the backstory sometimes that a lot of people don't know, that helps connect the puller with the fan. We want to connect those two. Another thing I like to do is, if at all possible, is do a meet and greet. If we can do a meet and greet out on a major thoroughfare somewhere, being that maybe a state fair or wherever it's at, we can get a couple of vehicles out there where we can get the drivers out there to sign autographs, give away the hero cards, get their pictures taken. The kids can come get their pictures taken. That speaks volumes for our sport, the truck and tractor pulling and drag racing.
I totally agree. And sometimes it's the simplest thing, like a driver getting a picture with a kid, or letting them wear their helmet, or putting them in the driver's seat for a picture or something like that. And then that kid is going to remember that truck or that tractor, and he's going to drag mom and dad to the stands, or look who's up now, and all that kind of thing. That's how you really build fans and your fan base. And, anybody can do that as well. You don't have to be this big multinational champion puller, or you don't have to be the best out there to do it, or to be at a certain level to do it. I mean, if you take pride in what you're doing as far as pulling or racing or anything, you have fans, believe it or not. I think a lot of these guys don't really realize that there are people that specifically come to see them, that a meet and greet would just blow some of these fans out of the water, and they would be so ecstatic about it.
That's right. The drivers are the heroes to these kids, and they just love it. Whether it's a ratty old Ford or a ratty old Dodge, or maybe it's a completely built piece of equipment, a lot of times it's the driver. Be personable to those kids and shake their hands and fist bump them and just make them feel special.
I completely 100% agree with you. In your opinion, is it crucial for an announcer to know a lot about a vehicle's performance, or to stay up to date with current horsepower levels or anything like that? Is it crucial for that, or is it something that you can learn as you go, and just as long as you kind of stay within your means of knowledge, is that kind of okay, or do you really have to know a lot about it?
Well, you should stay up to date on what's going on. As of course, a lot of rules change from year to year, or you'll have a rule that's going to change 2 years from now that is in the book already. You want to be able to tell the crowd, now look, they're running an unlimited charger this year, but now next year they're going to be limited to a 4-1 charger, or they're going to have to do this, or going to have to do that, or this is a new class that's up and coming. If it's a tractor or a new truck class that's just getting started, you can kind of preview those things. But yeah, you want to be up to date on the rules. You want to be up to date on the horsepower and what's going on and what the new trends are in the sport.
Right. Completely doable for someone that wanted to do a little bit of research. I mean, there's not really a pathway to follow, so to speak, but anybody that would be interested in announcing, I mean, some quick Google or Facebook searches, and they could probably grab quite a bit of information that they can use while announcing an event.
Well, yeah, you're right, Sarah. There's a lot of stuff out there. You can Google anything. You got to kind of be a motorhead. You got to really love the sport like I do. I try to go, even if we're not doing an event, which is kind of rare, I try to go as much as I can for a lot of various reasons. But if that's a lot of fun, that's a whole other story. But you can learn a lot on Google, but you got to have a love and a passion for the sport as well.
If you had somebody that was coming in that had that passion and that had that drive and really was kind of motorhead crazy and followed some pullers and stuff, and they thought, maybe I want to try announcing or even just coming up in the tower, I don't think a lot of people realize that, especially you or Steve Eaton or a couple of the other people that do announce even at the larger levels, you're pretty open. Like if you had somebody that wanted to, shadow you for an event or come up for a little bit and kind of see how you did it, you probably would be pretty open to that for somebody to approach you, right?
Yeah, I would be open for that. And I always tell everybody, when somebody says, boy, I'd sure like to do this, and I tell them, start on your local level. Start where I did. Start with the small groups and then work your way up. Find your passion, whether it is announcing truck and tractor pulling, or maybe it's horse shows, or maybe it's cattle shows, or maybe it's something completely different. But find your niche. Find what you really enjoy.
Right, because if you find something that you enjoy, you're going to put way more effort into it than something that you're just kind of fussing through.
Exactly.
What kind of suggestions would you give? I mean, obviously you can't be everywhere every weekend. So what what suggestions do you give somebody when you can't be there? Do you have a criteria that you can run them down? Like, hey, when you're finding somebody, make sure it's XYZ. How do you go about finding an announcer?
Well, it's a group that pretty soon you realize who's good and who's not as maybe proficient in their craft. And there are certain people that I would recommend all the time because of that point. And if there's somebody that calls me about an event, I'm already booked, I cannot do the event, there's maybe only one or two people that I would really ask about or tell them to contact, because those are the ones that I believe can do the job. I know that you can get anybody up there, but you kind of get what you pay for sometimes. It's just like a lot of different things. Your announcer is the voice of the event. It's the first voice that people connect with, and it's the last voice they usually hear before they go home. So you want to make sure that you've got somebody there that is going to be what you want them to be for your event, no matter what it is.
And I know when I had an event in Ohio that you couldn't be to, and I had called you about it, and it was a little bit, and you were like, man, I just don't know who to send you, Sarah. Like, I don't know. And then you had gotten me hooked up with Steve, but it took a minute. It's tough too, because, once you, from a promoter standpoint, once you give somebody that microphone, they control your entire show. They can say some things inappropriately or some stuff you really aren't digging, or they can, the distances cannot be announced properly, or they get some stuff mixed up, and then it really does create some havoc, especially on my end when I have an announcer that doesn't document the distances properly, then it's now we have a big problem. But like you come with Miss Judy, and she writes your distances down for you. And is that something that promoters should be asking their announcers? Have an extra person in the tower? That's something that a lot of them overlook. They think, oh, it's just talking, you can have one person, but it really gets overwhelming up there.
It is. There's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. And God bless Miss Judy. She's put up with me for over 40 years. And poor girl, anyhow. Poor girl. But she writes things down. I write them down. If there's something that I need to know, or that I'm reading a script, I'm working with a sponsor here real quick. All of a sudden, there's something going on the track. A lot of times, she'll just touch my arm, and I know that, hey, start winding things up because something's going on. And
right.
A lot of promoters don't think that they need somebody else in the tower. But yeah, that second set of eyes, that second pencil up there means a lot, because there can be two distances the same on one puller, and the third person that might be writing that down out in the crowd might get 178 instead of 198. It makes a big difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. I know there's a few times when I first started out and I had, Billy, Bob, Joe, whoever announcing before we had gotten hooked up with you, and it really raised the bar. But, you really don't understand how easily, when you're not in the tower, it's very easy for someone to get sidetracked or not catch that distance or write that distance down before that sled gets back to the starting line and that reset button gets hit, and then you're like, oh no, I didn't write that down, I got sidetracked. This person's yelling at me in the walkie-talkie, and this person wants to talk to me, and this and that, and it's like it gets pretty hectic there pretty quickly.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so when you talked about somebody coming to the tower and shadow you, I've had that happen before, and I just ask them to please just be quiet. Don't be talking a lot. And I've already had people in the tower, and we've had to say, well, hey, guys, you got to hold it down back here because you're overriding the microphone half the time. Right. It's a lot of fun. We have a ball, but there are certain things that's got to be done. And one of the things you touched on, and I'd like to elaborate on that just a little bit, you brought up a very good point. Never cross that line. There's a line that we don't cross, and never use any foul language. Mm-hmm. It's not professional. It's not called for. You don't need it to get your point across.
Right.
So, and the other thing is just nothing ever inappropriate about anybody or anything. Just don't do that. In today's world, seems like we're in a different culture than we used to be. So that is ever so much more important than it has ever been.
And that's so true. And, we always, I know the events that you go to or that you come to with us, you always handle this for me. And I know when you're not there, I copy the way you do it, as far as when you come in and you do the anthem and you do the pledge and you do the prayer and you bless the drivers and everybody on the track crew. That's something that we also always will push, even if there's a couple disgruntled people in the stands or comments on Facebook or whatever. That's something that motorsports is about. So we always will put that at the forefront of any of the shows that we do. And I know you do the same, no matter if it's pulling or drag racing or anything like that.
Yes. My dad was in World War II. I'm Sons of the Legion member. And besides that, I'm an American. And I'm pretty proud of that.
And we always open with prayer, whether you're there or Steve or whoever, or if I'm announcing. I dare say that I do announce sometimes when you can't be there. I don't know if I should admit that or not, but we always do prayer. And there are a lot of people, that come up to me afterwards or when I see them or at the event, and they're like, I've never heard an announcer say a prayer for the drivers and the crew and us going home and all that sort of thing. And it really does touch a lot of people when you're not afraid or you're not hesitant to put your faith out there.
Right. Yep. You're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk.
And I wanted to ask you real quick before we wrap this up. I know we've been talking. We could probably talk all night, Denver.
Oh yes, I'm sure we could.
All kinds of topics. Every time we always do this at every event. It's like, oh, I got to get going because we just get lost in conversation. But I wanted to ask you, what would your favorite or most memorable event be? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's Bowling Green and the fact that you're a blue shirt and the charity behind it. But I don't know if I'm correct on saying that or not, so I wanted to ask you.
I have a lot of events that stick out in my mind. I have been honored to be asked to do an event every year in Central Ohio. And the first year we did that for a gentleman who lost his life, young man. And I've been honored to do that every year. I still get a lump in my throat. They've given away well over 100,000, I believe it is, in scholarships. And they turned something that was such a tragedy into something that's done very, very well. That's one of them. Second event, and in no particular order, I should add, the 50th anniversary of National Tractor Pulling Championships. We knew it was special from the backside as we planned all that and put it all together. But for anybody that was there, and when those jets come flying over, I'm not real sure I could have found a dry eye in the spot. It was amazing. So that's one that sticks out. And of course, then this last year or so, and we did Larry Kester's Memorial, Footloose mini rod driver who lost his life. And so those are some of the ones that stand out. Probably the most funniest was when the raccoon got up the tower at Bowling Green and just about fell down on one of our statisticians' heads.
Oh,
and he was just about ready to bail out the back side of the tower. And it was quite. Well, the best part about that is the next day he came in the tower with a coonskin cap on. So it was fun. It was fun. Just a few odds and ends that really stick out well.
Right.
You talked about a blue shirt. A blue shirt is an honor. It is something that is you can't hardly connect that with anything, because the way the fans feel about what you do and the hard work that goes in, and believe me, you know all about hard work there. There's many events that you put on, and sadly to say, some of the ones that haven't been able to happen this year, but much work has gone into them. All the work that goes into that, just to see it come off as good as it does, and it's amazing. It's an amazing thing, and it's a $20 a year membership. That's it.
I hear that. I see you guys hashtag that, proud to be a blue shirt, and you guys talk about it. I believe, to me, for what I'm exposed to, that is the one event that is posted about or commented on or brought up every time anybody asks, your favorite event, or what's one event you have to make it to, or an experience you've had. Everyone brings up Bowling Green. It is the Super Bowl. You're not getting around it in this sport. It's everybody's great time,
Oh yeah. It's fun. It's absolutely fun. Just fun.
And it's great to know that there's, the sport is already so family oriented, and it's so team oriented, and so it's probably the toughest competition out there, but that everyone is still family, and your biggest rival will help you on the track, or your crew members and people will just help you no matter what, because they don't want to win because you sat out. So they want to go beat you on the track, and it's definitely a feeling that you get, and for Bowling Green to have that feeling of competition and that feeling of family to that magnitude, and it all comes together for one weekend at a single event is crazy. The aerial shots of that event is nothing like I've ever seen at any. It's like Daytona for tractor pulling. You know, the place is packed. You can't find a seat anywhere.
You can't find a seat anywhere. You're exactly right. Now let me ask you, have I seen you at Bowling Green yet?
You have not. We have a local event that two of the brothers that host or that help all of us all year long. They're the backbone behind probably every single club in the area. They donate equipment and all that stuff, and that is the one weekend that they host their event. But because this year is so kind of flip-floppy with the dates, and a lot of months have 5 weekends, I believe that there's not a conflict this year because it's a leap year and we had that extra day, which threw a wrench in all the weekends. But I believe this year we will be able to go, and I am stoked about it. I've told Matt, I said, do not plan anything that weekend. We're not doing anything at all. We're leaving. We're going there. We're going to go check it out. Yes, I want to see it. I want to see it. And I'm going to bug you when I get there too. I'm going to be like, hey, Denver, you know me, remember?
You bet I do. We'll get you the 37-cent tour and get you up in the tower, and and we'll probably take you back through the campground maybe.
Yeah.
So be prepared. It'll be fun.
Right. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I had people called me and asked me for events, and I said, no. I'm done that. I'm going to Bowling Green. I don't know what y'all are doing, but you're crazy if you're not going. So that's where we're going this year.
So how many hours is this for you to drive?
Oh, it should be somewhere, I believe, between 13 and 14.
You're right up with me, Sarah. I've driven 16 hours overnight, 900 mile from Ludington, Michigan, to South Carolina, Gaffney, South Carolina, to the Peach Festival overnight.
Wow.
And we did the event the next day. The next day we got there at 3 in the afternoon and went on at 7.
That's crazy. I remember the furthest event that we ever drove to was we went from Connecticut to the Gulf of Mississippi, and we went down there for a Diesel Thunder event. And let me tell you, it was a long drive. It felt longer to go there than it did to go to Texas when we did the Texas donations a few years ago when the hurricanes hit down there. And that was, I tell you, it's rough. It's rough riding in the truck because you're all about it for the first couple of hours, and you know you got your playlist going, and you're like, yeah, and you're jamming out, and then third or fourth hour in, you're like, all right, I'm over this. Can we do something else?
yeah, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wish there was kind of like a teleportation button or something like that. You could be like, well, you paid your dues, you traveled so far, now you can skip ahead the rest of the way, type of thing. I would like that.
Oh yeah.
It's fun though. It's definitely fun. I mean, a lot of times when we're driving, we do a lot of phone calls, and we do a lot of stuff like this. I mean, we're doing a podcast right now, but we talk the same way, whether we're recording for a podcast or whether I see you at an event, or, we talk on the phone. It's always a back and forth exchange of ideas or information and all kinds of stuff. I mean, that's really what it's like on our end of the sport is, we just try to keep up with everything all the time.
That's right. And just you and I have become good friends, and you're so great to work for. I just love coming to your events. You are all over the place. You're like a Jack Russell Terrier on steroids.
I am all over the place. It's very hard to find me. I'm like, most of the time the guys try to ask me a question, I'm like, I don't know, just handle it. I got to do something else.
That's exactly right. And I try to take care of as much as I can. And a lot of times you'll turn around and say, do this, and this. I say, okay, and by that time, I can't even see you anymore. You're so far away from me already.
Yes. That's the great thing. I wish more promoters or clubs. I say clubs because where I'm from, it's you either have the big promotion companies. I mean, I'm a little one, but where we're from, it's like you have East Coast and you have Interstate, and those are your big ones, and then you have a lot of little clubs within the New England and the Northeast area, a lot of little clubs, and they don't really get how the announcers on your level would be. I can go over to you and say, hey, I need you to go interview these 5 people in Vendor Row and ask them a bunch of questions, get their featured products, and then I need you to come back and I need you to go in staging lanes and interview 5 of those guys. And I don't have to babysit you for it. I don't have to ask you if it's done. You've already done it. You've sent me the videos. We can post them just like King of the Street. I mean, I had 3 announcers there, but you guys were announcers, doing interviews. You were doing, meeting the sponsors, doing some schmoozing. It's kind of like you guys did a lot of things that I wish I had time to do, but I couldn't do, or we were down on media people. So, you were able to do the videos and
Right.
and stuff like that. I think a lot of people don't realize how much you actually bring to the table.
Well, we try to bring everything we can, and we're always open to new things like that. And working with Motor Mania Television, those guys, Mark and his crew, they were great to work with. They were absolutely great to work with. We still kind of keep up with them a little bit, talk to them a little bit across the interweb a little bit. A lot of fun. And whatever. When I come to an event, I've got to be able to multitask just as much as you can, because I don't want to be somebody that you have to babysit. Be able to go do your thing and let me know what you need me to do, and off I go. Right,
and that's such a valuable thing. I mean, it's worth every penny to pay you. You're basically a utility player for anybody that's been baseball fluent out there, but you're pretty much a utility player. You can go anywhere and do multiple different tasks, and everything's going to be done to a standard. It's not going to be, I'm an announcer, I'm not really here to film today, so it's going to be, so. But no, it's you always give everything you've got in every product that you put out, and that's why I really wanted to do this interview with you, because I think a lot of people out there just really don't understand how valuable a great announcer can be, a real asset to your team.
Exactly. And it all goes back to sometimes you get what you pay for.
And you say that, but you're really not that expensive. For the products that you give back to me. I mean, I'm like, wow, because you have to think too, you're in Ohio, we're on the East Coast. So, you've got to get your rig out there, and it's you come a day ahead of time, and it's, you do a lot for what it is. It's not for somebody listening to this. I don't want a club or a group or somebody to think that you're these tens of thousands of dollars to show up or something. It's something that you can work with somebody with, and if you can swing an event or two in the same vicinity, it's you really kind of, or multi-day events. I usually have you for 2 or 3 days sometimes, and it's not crazy numbers. So I just don't want anybody out there to think that, it's like paying another insurance payment to get an announcer.
Well, you've got to be affordable. You've got to be able to bring that value to the table, and you got to understand too on my end that I understand that the promoters, they're not paid a money. They're fighting tooth and nail to put that event on to make sure it goes like it should go, and they want to make sure that their sponsors get taken care of well. So the money that's spent on a good announcer is well worth it. And I try to be affordable and do the best I can no matter where I go.
It's definitely been a ride having you, and it's definitely been a positive. I can't say enough positive things about you, and I'm really hoping that by doing this podcast, that doesn't mean that you're available less days for me. because I'll tell you, if I could have you every single event that we do throughout the year, it would be awesome. I know Steve does a great job too. Both of you are extremely busy, and I don't get you as often as I wish I could have you, but I do appreciate the times that I do have you, and I'm glad that I have you for, the important ones like the indoor event and King of the Street and, Fall Fest and the big stuff. I'm glad that I have you guys for that as well. So
thank you. It's fun. It's fun. We appreciate the hospitality that we get, and King of Street is just wild. It is absolutely wild. I love it. I love King of Street. I am addicted.
It is crazy. I remember the first time I drug you to New Jersey for this event, and I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. We saw you the weekend before in Indiana, and at the ZZ Diesel event, the Breaking Point event, saw you the weekend before, and you're like, oh yeah. I said, yeah, we're gonna do it in the New Jersey sand, and we're ready to go. And we got there, and some of the stuff that those guys really brought to the table was phenomenal. I was not expecting it to be at that power level, and I wasn't expecting it to be that rowdy. I know when I put on events, I put 150% into it, whatever I can do. And it was really touching, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, I felt it in my chest. I was like, wow, these guys brought their A game here for me. Like, this is cool, because it was what I wanted. I wanted that street truck challenge so badly. That was my thing, and street trucks are like my, I don't know what to call it, but the street trucks are my thing, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then the way that it progressed from the first year that we did it until this past year when we were there, I mean, did you expect it to jump to where it was from the first year to last year?
Street trucks, I agree with you on the street trucks. I love the street trucks. The idea that they've got to take those trucks out on the street, make that drive, that keeps it legit. That keeps it legit. That is so cool. And of course, then LS Ryan, bringing that oh my gosh, and he won't tell me what he's got up his sleeve for this coming year, but it's going to be wild. That
it is. I actually and when this airs, we'll have already heard from him, because I talked to him on Sunday, and let me tell you what, I got to chop down about 3 hours into a half an hour of everything he told me, because I'm like, Brian, this just focus here for a minute, and just like briefly, and he, because he really is so excited about this. He can't believe that, as Diesels, we don't mind him coming in. I mean, that thing was rowdy. It was awesome to see that truck mix in with the Diesels.
Even the diesel guys, they even, like you would think a lot of the diesel guys would like, this old gas truck, this, that, When he started that truck and cracked that thing off a couple of times, it would turn their heads, and they were a whole new respect. Plus, Brian's a good guy, straight up, great guy, and he's a hard guy not to like.
Yeah. So, did you hear the story about that when it's Sunday morning for the street drive, and he was up early because he was in the military, so he was up early, and he was one of the first ones in line, and we were leaving at 6 for that street drive. It was going to be at 6 o'clock, and Matt went out to the scales at 5, and he said, I'm going to start weighing everybody an hour ahead of time because I want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody to go there. Well, the first couple of ones there were Mario and Brian, and Matt's it's 5:15, and Matt's like, there should be a line here. Everybody's still sleeping. What's going on? And Brian said, well, guess they don't want to get up early. And Matt says, take your truck around there and rev it and wake everyone up. And I tell you what, he did. And that thing was, that truck is nasty. I really like that truck. And it's cool because his wife tows her horse trailer with that truck. And I'm like, how do the horses, how are they like okay with that? But he did change his exhaust for the competition. So then I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Cause I have horses and I know they would be, it's a crazy competition. And I could have never imagined it would get to where it is now. And the amount and the complexity of it, and now that we added the big rigs in as their own sort of deal, and we did the pulling and the racing and everything as well for spectators on top of King of the Street, that event really, I think if the weather would cooperate with us, and hopefully moving it forward this year, it will be a little bit better. But I really think if the weather cooperated, that would be a really killer event.
Yes. Dragway 42 is a good place.
It is, yes.
It's a nice facility. It's set up well, and the Matcham family is really good to work with, I think, and a lot of good people there.
I was shocked at the amount of rain that we had and how quickly that place drained. I thought, oh, great, it's going to be nothing but a mud pit all weekend long. It's been raining for 2 weeks straight. Now we can't, it's not going to do it. And I didn't believe them. I did not believe them when they said, yep, it'll be fine. We'll be fine. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, did you just see all this rain? Like, there's puddles everywhere. And you know, I'll be darned, the next morning, it drained pretty well. I was like, wow, these people really spent a lot of money in drainage in this place.
Oh, yeah. Well, remember the night we got there?
Yeah.
Cold, rain, and miserable night, you know?
Yep.
One of those nights you only see on television, you know?
Right,
and,
right.
Oh, my gosh, it was terrible. But hey, we made the best of it. It's a great event. That goes back to what you do when you just said a little bit ago of putting 150% into everything you do. Mm-hmm. Because as you do that, it shows. It shows.
Yeah. It's really, no matter what your passion is, whether it's building engines or welding or announcing or hosting events or bringing everybody together or you know, multiple of those things put together, whatever. If you really like something and truly have some passion for it, then you will succeed at it. It won't be instant, and it won't be easy, but you eventually will attract the right people to be on your team, and you will make it. Eventually, it will get there. You just have to put your mind to it and pay your dues. You know.
Don't give up. Never give up.
I tell you, and that's the toughest part. The not giving up is the toughest part. There's been plenty of times that you hear of success stories of people, and they're like, you know, I almost gave up, or this was going to be it, or I just decided to do it one more time, and then it works out. So you never know.
Exactly. There you
go. Yeah. Well, I appreciate all your insight tonight, Denver. It was great talking to you as it always is, and I really hope this all clears up soon so that we can get to some events and we can chat in person.
Yeah, I would like that a lot. Yep. And when you get to Bowling Green, let me know that you're coming, and when you do cement those plans and make sure that you are coming, let me know. We'll do everything we can do to get you everywhere we can get you, and we'll do what we can do. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all of your insight and all of your knowledge and just being a part of the industry of view from my world. I guess I should say, like, thanks for being part of my part of the industry as well.
My pleasure, Sarah. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Please be safe and be healthy.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Thank you.
Oh,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.